That bread in your cart may contain the same chemical used to make yoga mats, and brands know it. In the next few minutes, I will expose 7 supermarket bread brands that do not belong in your kitchen, including ingredients banned in Europe, additives linked to kids' behavior issues, and formulas that spike blood sugar faster than candy. You will learn which loaves to avoid and what to buy instead. Let us start with the most obvious offender. Wonder Bread sits there with its colorful polka dots and pillowy softness, banking on pure nostalgia. You remember it from childhood. It feels innocent, safe, classic. But squeeze a loaf right now. Feel how it compresses like a sponge and bounces back. Real bread does not do that. That texture comes from azote carbonamide, the same compound used to make yoga mats and shoe soles. When heated during baking, it breaks down into chemicals flagged as potential carcinogens. This ingredient is banned in Europe and Australia, but here in the US, it is perfectly legal. Wonder Bread uses something called the Chorley wood process. Dough is mixed at high speeds for 3 hours instead of the traditional 12 to 16 hours. The result is bread that looks perfect and uniform, but your digestive system has to work overtime to process it. That bloated feeling after a sandwich? That is your body struggling with chemically accelerated bread. Then there is calcium propionate, a preservative that has been linked to irritability, sleep problems, and difficulty concentrating in children. The very bread marketed to families is potentially making kids' behavior worse. And this pattern of deception does not stop with Wonder Bread. It is just the beginning. Walk a few feet down the aisle and you will see Nature's Own. The name itself is marketing genius. Earthy tones, wheat imagery, the word nature's right there on the label. Except, here is the truth nobody tells you. The word nature's means absolutely nothing. It is not regulated, not certified. It is pure marketing designed to make you feel good about your purchase. Flip over their honey wheat variety, and you will find defame, a synthetic emulsifier that disrupts your gut bacteria. Your gut regulates your immune system, mental health, and digestion. Mess with that balance daily, and you are affecting your entire body. Nature's Own also contains high fructose corn syrup, not just in one variety, but across multiple products. Why does bread need high fructose corn syrup? Because it triggers the same reward centers in your brain as addictive substances. You will buy it again. The flour is enriched wheat flour. That means it started as whole wheat, got stripped of the bran and germ, was bleached white, and then had synthetic vitamins added back. Your body does not absorb synthetic vitamins the way it does real nutrients. You are eating nutritionally dead flour with a vitamin injection. Unless the soy is organic, which it is not, you are eating genetically modified soybeans sprayed with glyphosate. Over 90% of US soy is genetically modified. The glycemic index sits at 72, nearly as high as pure sugar. Your blood sugar spikes, insulin floods your system, and you crash within 2 hours. But at least Nature's Own uses natural ingredients, right? That is what the label implies. Except the ingredients tell a completely different story, just like the next brand that has built its entire reputation on a lie about texture. Sara Lee promises softness. That is their whole thing. The bread pulls apart in perfect uniform threads, like cotton candy. But that softness is not crafted through careful baking or quality ingredients. It is the result of the same industrial violence as Wonder Bread. High-speed mixing destroys the natural gluten structure, and they add massive amounts of soybean oil to compensate. Soybean oil sits near the top of the ingredient list. It is one of the most inflammatory oils you can consume, loaded with omega-6 fatty acids. Your body needs balance. The ideal ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 is about 4 to 1. The average American is eating 20 to 1, and Sara Lee is a major contributor to that imbalance. That imbalance drives chronic inflammation. This is not the acute kind you get from an injury. This is low-level, constant inflammation that damages cells, tissues, and organs over years. It contributes to arthritis, heart disease, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. Sara Lee also uses calcium sulfate, plaster of Paris. The same material used for wall repairs is going into your sandwich. Each slice contains 2 grams of added sugar. 2 slices equal 4 grams before you add anything else. Leave Sara Lee on your counter for 3 weeks. It will not mold. It will just get drier. That is not preservation. That is biological death. Real food spoils because bacteria can break it down. When bacteria will not even touch it, what does that tell you? Well, and if you think paying more money solves these problems, the next brand proves otherwise. Pepperidge Farm sits on the top shelf with sophisticated packaging and a classic font. The price is often double what other brands charge. The positioning screams premium quality. You'd assume you're paying for better ingredients. You'd be wrong. Flip over their farmhouse white and read the ingredients. The list reads: enriched wheat flour, sugar, soybean oil, calcium propionate, defame, calcium sulfate. This is identical to budget bread, with the same inflammatory soybean oil, the same preservatives linked to ADHD, and the same synthetic emulsifiers, disrupting your gut. Some Pepperidge Farm varieties contain caramel coloring, not the kind you make by heating sugar. This is chemically processed caramel that produces a compound called 4-MEI, which studies have linked to cancer in lab animals. California requires warnings for significant amounts. Certain varieties also contain azotic carbonamide, the yoga mat chemical. It is banned in Europe and legal here. Premium pricing does not protect you from it. Even their whole wheat options list enriched wheat flour first, that is white flour. Whole wheat flour comes second, meaning you are primarily eating white bread with some whole wheat thrown in for marketing purposes. What are you actually paying for? The nostalgic Pepperidge Farm name, the prettier packaging, the higher shelf placement. The ingredients themselves are identical to the cheapest options available. This is calculated deception at its finest. But it gets worse when brands specifically market themselves as healthy alternatives. Arnold Whole Grains covers its packaging with seeds and grains. The marketing screams health-conscious choice. The name itself suggests authenticity. But Arnold's whole grain is what I call a reconstituted fraud. Real whole grain bread uses flour that contains the entire wheat kernel. The bran, germ, and endosperm are ground together and never separated. Arnold does not do that. They mill the wheat and separate the components. Bran goes one way, germ another, and the endosperm becomes white flour. Then later, they add back some bran and germ to create what they call whole wheat flour. It is not the same. When you strip and recombine grain components, you destroy the nutritional structure. The vitamins, minerals, and enzymes that were originally bound together get broken apart. Adding them back does not restore what was lost. The third ingredient is sugar. Why does whole grain bread need added sugar? To mask the lack of natural flavor from proper fermentation. Some Arnold varieties contain potassium bromate, a flour improver classified as a possible carcinogen. It is banned in the European Union, Canada, Brazil, and China. The Food and Drug Administration urged bakers to stop using it in 1991, but compliance is not required. Arnold continues using it because it is cheaper and makes production faster. Tear open a slice. It pulls apart too easily. Real whole grain bread that was never separated has resistance. It is denser. It requires actual chewing. Arnold's is engineered to be soft through industrial processing. And the glycemic index of 69 means people with diabetes choosing this for health reasons are still getting significant blood sugar spikes. The whole grain claim is technically true, but practically meaningless. And if you think Arnold is bad, wait until you see what happens when retailers control the entire process. Every major retailer has a store brand. Walmart, great value. Kroger, Target good and gather. They all share one thing in common: prices that seem impossible. Sometimes 50 cents per loaf. When coffee costs $5 and organic apples are $3 a pound, how does bread cost 50 cents? The math only works if something is very, very wrong. Here is the disturbing economics. These brands use reject wheat. Wheat did not meet quality standards. Higher contaminants, broken kernels, inconsistent protein levels. It is sold at deep discounts to manufacturers who only care about price, not nutrition. That wheat is milled using industrial rollers that generate heat, destroying whatever nutrients remained. It is then bleached with chlorine and enriched with synthetic vitamins your body cannot properly absorb. Store brands contain preservatives at the maximum legal limits. Calcium propionate is maxed out. Real bread molds in 3 to 5 days. Store brands last 3 weeks because they have been made biologically dead. The ingredient lists include modified wheat starch, created by chemically altering starch with acids, enzymes, or even radiation. This makes cheap bread softer and extends shelf life, but it causes digestive issues, including bloating, gas, and irregular bowels. Fiber content sits below 1 gram per slice when your body needs 25 to 30 grams daily. The glycemic index reaches 75 or higher, which is actually higher than pure sugar at 65. Open a store brand loaf and smell it. There is barely any aroma, just a faint sweetness and something vaguely chemical. Real bread smells like grain and yeast. This smells like a factory. If bread costs 50 cents, corners were cut somewhere, usually with ingredient quality and your health. But the absolute worst offender combines all of these problems and adds a layer of emotional manipulation. Schmidt's Old Time is marketing perfection. The name is spelled with a Y to evoke nostalgia. With vintage packaging and a classic font, it positions itself as authentic bread made the way your grandparents remember. Every bit of that is a calculated lie. Schmidt's contains potassium bromate, the probable carcinogen banned across Europe, Canada, Brazil, and China. They continue using it because it makes production more efficient. The sodium content hits 240 milligrams per slice, among the highest of any brand. 4 slices in a day adds up to 960 milligrams of sodium just from bread. It uses enriched, bleached flour. The bleaching process creates alloxan, a compound scientists specifically use to induce diabetes in lab animals. You are eating a diabetes-causing compound every time you make a sandwich. High fructose corn syrup, soybean oil, calcium propionate, DATEM, they are all present. Some varieties add TBHQ, a preservative also used in biodiesel, lacquers, and varnishes. Studies link TBHQ to DNA damage and tumor growth in lab animals. Schmidt's uses the Chorleywood process. It can go from flour to loaf in under 3 hours, when traditional bread requires 12 to 24 hours. Natural fermentation develops flavor and breaks down difficult-to-digest compounds. Schmidt's skips all of that for speed and profit. The fiber content reveals the deception: 2 grams per slice, when whole wheat should contain much more. It is primarily white flour, with some wheat added for marketing. What frustrates me most is the deliberate manipulation of your emotions. They know Old Time makes you think of grandma's kitchen and wholesome food. They are weaponizing your feelings to sell probable carcinogens, inflammatory oils, and excessive sodium. There is nothing old-fashioned about cancer risk. If this video is changing how you see bread, hit that subscribe button right now. We expose what companies don't want you to know every single week. Because here's what connects all 7 of these brands. Yoga mat chemicals, carcinogens banned in Europe, preservatives linked to ADHD, bleaching agents that induce diabetes in lab animals, inflammatory oils driving chronic disease, marketing designed to hide it all. But 2 brands prove bread can still be real when companies actually care about ingredients over profit. Dave's Killer Bread proves that real bread is possible when you refuse to take shortcuts. The most important thing is the USDA organic certification. No synthetic pesticides, no genetically modified organisms, no artificial preservatives. Third-party verified, not just a marketing claim. The organic wheat isn't sprayed with glyphosate. The organic soy isn't genetically modified. The organic grains aren't treated with chemical fumigants. Look at the ingredient list for their 21 whole grains and seeds variety. Organic whole wheat flour, water, organic cane sugar, organic cracked whole wheat, organic rolled oats, organic sunflower seeds, organic flax seeds. Every single grain is organic. Every seed is organic. Even the sweetener is organic cane sugar, not high fructose corn syrup. No azotocarbonamide, no potassium bromate, no defame, no soybean oil, no artificial anything. Each slice contains 5 grams of protein and 5 grams of fiber. That's more protein than an egg and more fiber than most people get from an entire meal. The texture is noticeably different, denser, more substantial. It requires actual chewing, which is how bread should be. The taste is complex. You can identify the individual grains, the nuttiness of wheat, the sweetness of oats, the earthiness of rye. This is what real grain flavor tastes like without chemical enhancers. Because Dave's has no artificial preservatives, it lasts 5 to 7 days before mold appears. That's not a flaw. That's what real food does. The fact that industrial bread lasts 3 weeks should terrify you, not reassure you. For diabetics, the glycemic index sits around 55 versus 75 for white bread. The whole grains, seeds, and fiber slow digestion and prevent the insulin chaos that comes from eating Wonder Bread or Sara Lee. Yes, Dave's costs more, $5 to $7 per loaf versus $1 to $3 for industrial bread. But you're paying for organic ingredients, transparent sourcing, and food that actually nourishes your body instead of just filling your stomach. And if Dave's represents modern organic done right, there's one brand that takes it even further by using methods that have nourished humans for thousands of years. Ezekiel 4:9, sprouted grain bread, is based on a biblical recipe from the book of Ezekiel. Wheat, barley, beans, lentils, millet, and spelt are combined exactly as described in the ancient text. But here is what makes Ezekiel fundamentally different from every other bread we have discussed. It is not made from flour at all. Every other bread, including Dave's Killer Bread, starts with flour. Grain is milled into powder and reconstituted with water. Ezekiel uses sprouted whole grains. The grains are soaked until they sprout, then combined into bread. No milling, no flour, just sprouted living grain. This matters because when a grain sprouts, it activates enzymes that break down starches into sugars, proteins into amino acids, and fats into fatty acids. It is essentially pre-digestion, making the nutrients vastly more bioavailable. Sprouting also increases vitamin content. Vitamin C and B vitamins multiply during sprouting. The grain becomes more nutritious as it prepares to grow. Sprouting reduces phytates, compounds that bind to minerals and prevent absorption. By breaking down phytates, your body can actually use the minerals instead of just passing them through. The ingredient list is remarkably simple. Organic sprouted wheat, filtered water, organic sprouted barley, organic sprouted millet, organic malted barley, organic sprouted lentils, organic sprouted soybeans, organic sprouted spelt, fresh yeast, sea salt. 9 ingredients, all organic, all sprouted, no flour, no sugar, no oil, no preservatives, no chemicals whatsoever. You will find Ezekiel in the frozen section, which actually tells you something important. It has 0 preservatives, so freezing is the only way to keep it fresh. That is a feature, not a bug. Industrial bread that lasts 3 weeks has been chemically treated. Ezekiel is real food that will spoil. The texture is dense and substantial. It requires real chewing. Toast it, and it becomes crispy on the outside while staying moist inside. The sprouted grains develop a nutty, earthy flavor that is completely different from the generic bread taste you are used to. The nutritional profile is exceptional: 5 grams of protein and 3 grams of fiber per slice. But more importantly, it is a complete protein containing all 9 essential amino acids. That is incredibly rare in bread. For people with diabetes, this is the holy grail. The glycemic index sits around 36 versus 75 for white bread. Sprouted grains and 0 added sugar mean your blood sugar rises slowly instead of spiking. There is no added sugar whatsoever. The slight sweetness comes entirely from the natural breakdown during sprouting. Sodium is just 75 milligrams per slice versus 200 milligrams in industrial bread. Ezekiel costs $5 to $6 per loaf, but you are paying for the most nutritionally complete bread available. Organic sprouted grains, complete protein, low glycemic index, 0 chemicals. This is bread as it was made for thousands of years before industrial processing destroyed it. And there you have it, the full picture. 7 brands to avoid, and 2 you can trust. The truth is that most bread is not really bread. It is industrial foam, engineered for profit, designed to look healthy while being anything but. But real bread still exists. Dave's Killer, Bread and Ezekiel 4:9 prove it is possible when you prioritize ingredients over margins. Go to your kitchen right now. Take out every loaf. Read the ingredient lists carefully. If you see azodicarbonamide, potassium bromate, datem, high fructose corn syrup, or ingredient lists longer than 15 items, get rid of it. All of it. Replace it with bread that has fewer than 10 ingredients you actually recognize. Whole grains that were never separated. Organic certification. No chemicals you cannot pronounce. Your body will notice within a week. Better digestion. Stable energy throughout the day. No bloating, no crashes, no brain fog. The goal is not to never eat bread. Bread has nourished civilizations for thousands of years. The goal is to eat bread that's actually bread, not chemical foam, designed to maximize profits while destroying your health. If this video changed how you see the bread aisle, smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss investigations like this. Drop a comment and tell me which brand shocked you the most.